Omagyanatimanasya Janansalakam Saksaranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Namah Chitchaitanyamanopistam Staptam Yena Bhutale Svamarupakadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shiro Shiyuda Padakamanam Shirom Vaishnavamsa Shirupam Jagajatam Saganaragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parjana Saitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Saganalita Shivishakam Vitam Sha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dino Bandhu Jatpate Gopesha Gopka Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanashvai Vishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamama Hare Priye Vakha Kalptravasha Kripasan Brevasha Patnam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namah Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namani Namaste Saraswata Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirvishesha Srinyavadi Paskachai Desatarani Srila Prabhupada Ki.
Recording in progress.
So today we will continue with chapter 11 from the 11th canto, symptoms of conditioned and liberated living entities. So we discussed until now the different characteristics of conditioned and liberated life. And today, in this last part of the 11th chapter, that Uddhav will ask about symptoms by which one can recognize a saintly person. And then we will hear, I think, 24 qualities of a pure devotee. We will not have the time to discuss this in detail with that because we have, it have very extensive purports. And then at the end, Krishna explains various processes of devotional service to Uddhav. But now, text 26-27. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Cheva Narottanam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Dhyamudiyayat Nastvayasya Bhatrasu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya Bhagavatu Tamaske Bhaktir Bhavata Naistiki Shri Uddhava Vacha Sadhustva Vottama Sloka Matta Kritrich Vida Prabhu Bhaktistva Yupajuyeta Kitrisi Sadbiratrita Etan me Pusa Dhyaksha Loba Dhyaksha Jyat Prabhu Pranataya Nuraktaya Prananaya Sakatyatam. So translation, can someone read the translation, please?
Shri Uddhav said, go ahead, Prastapatya, go ahead.
Shri Uddhava said, My dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, what type of person do you consider to be a true devotee, and what type of devotional service is approved by great devotees as worthy of being offered to your lordship? My dear ruler of the universal controllers, O Lord of Vaikuntha, and Almighty God of the universe, I am your devotee, and because I love you, I have no other shelter than you. Therefore, please explain this to me.
Mm-hmm. So it is a humble prayer of Uddhav that who is considered to be a true devotee. And what type of devotional service is approved? So these two points will be answered now by Lord Krishna, that pure devotees, because pure devotees, they can explain the proper methods of devotional service, that because they are already absorbed in love of Krishna. Therefore, Uddhav is asking about this. Uddhav never worshipped any demigod. He is completely surrendered to Lord Krishna, and he has no other shelter. Text 28. Tvam Brahma Paramam Vyoma Purusha Prakite Para Avatirno Si Bhagavan Svesho Pata Pritachvabo. My dear Lord, can someone read, please?
My dear Lord, as the absolute truth, you are transcendental to material nature, and like the star, you are never entangled in any way. Still being controlled by your devotee's love, you accept many different forms, incarnating according to your devotee's desire.
Thank you. You are never entangled in any way, but you are controlled by your devotee's love. And we will see that is the characteristic of the Vraj Prema. They control Krishna by their love. Then we will go towards that, because that. So you accept many forms and incarnations, and we have in the purport here the 4th paragraph, and the 4th paragraph starts with Si Madhvacharya as quoted from the Prakashamrita. Can someone read this purport, please?
Srila Madhvacharya has quoted from the Prakasha Samhita as follows. The Lord accepts different spiritual bodies according to the desire of his devotees. For example, the Lord agreed to become the son of Vasudeva and Devaki. Thus, although Lord Krishna has an eternal blissful spiritual form, he appears to enter within the body of his devotee who becomes his mother. Although we speak of the Lord taking on a body, the Lord does not change his form as do conditioned souls, who must change their material bodies. The Lord appears in his own eternally unchangeable forms. Lord Hari always appears in the forms that are especially desired by his loving devotees, and never in other forms. However, if one thinks that the Lord in the manner of an ordinary person taking birth becomes the physical son of Vasudeva or other devotees, then one is victimized by illusion. The Lord merely expands his spiritual potency, causing his pure devotees to think Krishna is now my son. One should understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead never accepts or rejects a material body. Nor does he ever give up his eternal spiritual forms. Rather, the Lord eternally manifests his blissful bodies according to the loving sentiments of his eternal pure devotees.
Thank you.
Okay.
No, that's okay. That text 29:32. So here we will find 28 qualities of a pure devotee, not 24, 28. That and it's a big purport, but let's see. We go. It's also a long verse. And then you have this 28 qualities. What we will do is, I will read, so you can read the translation, which is now on the screen, and then I will go to the 28 qualities from commentary Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And but it's good when we go there to all these qualities. It's an exercise. Yeah, you can think, do I have these qualities? Where am I? It's a good measuring stick, I would say, for our own proper, for measuring our own spiritual advancement. So can someone read the translation on the board here? The Supreme Personality of Godhead said.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O Uddhava, a saintly person is merciful and never injures others. Even if others are aggressive, he is tolerant and forgiving toward all living entities. His strength and meaning in life comes from the truth itself. He is free from all envy and jealousy, and his mind is equal in material happiness and distress. Thus, he dedicates his time to work for the welfare of all others. His intelligence is never bewildered by material desires, and he has controlled his senses. His behavior is always pleasing, never harsh, and always exemplary, and he is free from possessiveness. He never endeavors in ordinary worldly activities, and he strictly controls his eating. He therefore always remains peaceful and steady. A saintly person is thoughtful and accepts me as his only shelter. Such a person is very cautious in the execution of his duties and is never subject to superficial transformation because he is steady and noble, even in a distressing situation. He has conquered over the six material qualities, namely hunger, thirst, lamentation, illusion, old age, and death. He is free from all desires for prestige and offer honor to others. He is expert in reviving the Krishna consciousness of others and therefore never cheats anyone. Rather, he is a well wishing friend of all, being most merciful. Such a saintly person must be considered the most learned of men. He perfectly understands that the ordinary religious duties prescribed by me in various Vedic scriptures possess favorable qualities that purify the performer, and he knows that neglect of such duties constitute a discrepancy in one's life. Having taken complete shelter at my lotus feet, however, a saintly person ultimately renounces such ordinary religious duties and worships me alone. He is thus considered to be the best among all living entities.
Thank you. So purport by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. In the first three verses, the 28 qualities of a pure devotee are described. Among them, the 17th quality, Krishnaika Sharana, is the most important, and the other 27 are secondary. So one is most important, 17, Saranagata. So now the first is Kripalu. A devotee cannot tolerate seeing the world merge in ignorance and suffering the wide pleasures of Maya. Therefore, he busily engages in distributing Krishna consciousness and is called Kripalu or merciful, Akritadoa. Even if someone tries to harm a devotee, he does not try to retaliate. Indeed, he never tries to harm any living entity. The Mayavadis on the other hand, are most envious and thus try to kill God as well as the individuality of the living entities. Thus the impersonalists are their own worst enemies, and they are certainly the enemies of their unfortunate followers. Frutivorkers are also envious of their self, because they purposely absorb themselves in material affairs so they do not have the chance to understand their external existence. In this world of survival of the fittest, everyone is engaged in exploiting others. It is only the devotees of the Lord who uses his body, mind and words not only for his own benefit but for the welfare of others. So even if a devotee if someone tries to harm a devotee, he does not retaliate. But he never tries to harm any living entity. That's Akrita Doa. Then Titikshu. A devotee tolerates the offenses of others. He is detached from the material body, which is composed of skin, bones, blood, pus, urine, and so on. And so he forgives the obnoxious behavior of those who cannot appreciate the value of a devotee of the Lord. Sanyanista 4. A devotee always remains fixed in the truth. He knows very well that he is the eternal servant of the Lord and does not waste his time by engaging in useless material activities. Asuya, a devotee, is never envious. He knows that this world is a kind of phantasmagoria, and so he never envies someone in any material condition. Therefore, he never unnecessarily criticizes others or causes any kind of disturbance. Samadarshi, a devotee has equal vision. His goal is to attain the eternal personality, supreme personality of Godhead. And so he is not elated or disturbed by the temporary happy or miserable conditions of this world. For him, all temporary material conditions are the same. Sarvapokaraka. 7. Sarvapokaraka. The devotee is a benefactor of all living entities, neglecting one's own interest and working for the satisfaction of others is called paropakar. Srila Prabhupada mentions that many times, especially for the Indians, he says paropakar to inspire them to preach. So, satisfaction of others is called paropakar, whereas causing trouble to others for one's personal gratification is called parapakar. A devotee always works for the satisfaction of Lord Krishna, who is the maintainer of all living entities, and so his activities are ultimately pleasing to everyone. Vasana Vachita Vichara Parayana. A devotee has no material desires. Those who have given up the service of Krishna maintain a desire to become the master of all they survey. Thus the conditioned soul is busily engaged in trying to lord over a material nature, although the Lord himself is the actual enjoyer. 9. Danta. The devotee is naturally repelled by sinful activities and controls his senses by dedicating all his acts to Krishna. 10. Mridu. The devotee is gentle. Conditioned souls invariably consider others as friends or enemies, and they justify cruel behavior meted out to their opponents. The devotee never considers others as his enemies, so never indulges in the tendency to take pleasure in the suffering of others. So Prahlad Maharaj, when he was instructed by Sanai Namarka in diplomacy, how to rule and divide, he did not like it because it was based on friends and enemies. 11. Shuchi. A devotee is pure both internally and externally, because impurity and abomination cannot touch him. Akinchana. A devotee is free from possessiveness. He is not eager to enjoy or renounce anything because he considers everything to be Krishna's property. Aniya. A devotee is indifferent to material acquisitions because he sees everything in relationship to the Lord. Mitabuk. A devotee eats only as much as is required. That's yes. Santa. a devotee is peaceful because he abstains from material enjoyment, which is full of disturbances. Sthira, a devotee is fixed in his determination and is not restless. Sharanagata, that is 17, that's the most important quality, Sharanagata. A devotee is fully surrendered to the Lord. A devotee does not take pleasure in anything except serving Lord Krishna. A Muni, a devotee is thoughtful and intelligent. A Pramata, a devotee is without inebriation. Gambiratma, a devotee is grave, being absorbed in the absolute. His mentality cannot be understood by gross materialists. Tritiman, a devotee is firm and steady in his determination because he has fully controlled his tongue and genitals. Chitta Sadguna, a devotee has conquered the 6 material qualities: hunger, thirst, illusion, death, fear, and lamentation. Amani, a devotee is not proud. Manada, a devotee is not one to brag about himself under the influence of passion and ignorance. Kalya or Daksha, a devotee is expert in making people understand the truth of Krishna consciousness. Maitra, a devotee is a kind friend to everyone. Karunika, a devotee is most merciful because he tries to bring everyone to the platform of sanati or Krishna consciousness. Kavi, a devotee, is poetic and very learned. So these are 28 qualities. One who fully engages in the unalloyed devotional service of the Lord is expected to develop all these transcendental qualities. In the beginning, the devotee should cultivate the limbs of devotional service while continuing to perform the duties of his occupation, according to the rules prescribed in the scriptures. As the devotee becomes fixed in devotional service and freed from material desires, he can give up these regulations so that he can intensify his engagement on the spiritual platform. Thus he will gradually become a genuinely saintly person. That Krishna consciousness has nothing to do with material enjoyment and renunciation. The conceptions that I'm the enjoyer and I've renounced something only apply to those in the bodily conception of life. The devotee thinks nothing is mine because everything is owned and controlled by the Lord. Because you cannot renounce something which does not belong to you. Everything belongs to Krishna. So we have the second paragraph. Yeah, okay. This was the purport. Yeah, this was actually the purport of Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj. So the point is, in the beginning, one cultivates devotional service mixed with karma. And then one progresses to practice devotional service mixed with jnana. So the stage of perfection, however, is characterized as being devoid of karma and jnana. So that's the meaning of pure devotional service. We know Anyabilasa Sunyam Jnana Kamata Navtam Alnakulina Krishna Siyanam Bhakta Uttama. So to that point we need to come. And we see an example is Sukadev Goswami. At a certain moment he became attracted by the hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam from his father. So one who fully engaged in the devotional service of the Lord is expected to develop all these qualities. So as an essential quality of bhakti is surrender, and that is the Svarup Lakshana, or the primary quality, the Sharanagata. I'm a servant of Krishna. So don't offend someone who has this quality, even if he does not have developed the other qualities. Be careful. So this is all these qualities, and it's a long purport. You can read it again. all can read all these commentaries, not text 33. Yatva ta yevaimam yavan yasasmi yatrisa pajantyananya bhavena tame bhakta tamamataha. Can someone read the translation, please?
My devotees may or may not know exactly what I am, who I am, and how I exist. But if they worship me with unallied love, then I consider them to be the best of devotees.
Yeah.
Shall I read the purport also, Maharaj?
No, only the last paragraph of the purport. The
1
last
second.
paragraph. Although one may develop,
Although one may develop immeasurable saintly qualities, without love of Krishna, one will not achieve complete success. One must understand the personality of Godhead as He is and love Him. Even if one is not capable of analytically understanding the position of God, if one simply loves Krishna, then one is certainly perfect. Many of the residents of Vrindavan had no idea that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, nor did they know that Krishna's potencies or incarnations. They simply loved Krishna with their hearts and souls, and therefore they are considered most perfect.
thank you. So of
Thank you,
course,
Mother.
in the purport, it's mentioned Srila Prabhupada's translation of Bhagavad Gita 11:41, where Arjuna says, Saketi matva pashabam yaduktam e Krishna yadavai saketi achanatama imanam tavedam maya pramada pranayeni tvami. I've in the past addressed you as, O Krishna, O Yadava, my friend, without knowing your glories. Please forgive me whatever I've done in madness or love. So Krishna says, Prayena, in his forgetfulness of Krishna's supreme position. It was caused by his love for Krishna. So he had also that point, which is, as the Vrajavasis, that of course Krishna confirms Bhaktiam Bhaktiartvananya Sakyam Evam Vidorina Gyatam Drastam Sapatvana Pavashtam Sa Parantapa. So Krishna says you can only know me by undivided devotional service. I can be understood as I'm standing with you, before you, and can thus be seen directly. Only in this way you can enter into the mysteries of my understanding. So this verse shows the supreme position of bhakti. According to one's according to one's bhakti, Krishna will reveal himself. So the residents of Vrindavan, they pushed out of their consciousness the idea that Krishna is God. Very interesting. Because it would interfere in the way they wanted to serve him. Seems we have a problem.
Whoever is the host, okay.
Yeah. Okay. But now Krishna will describe the process of devotional service, and it are a lot of verses, you see. And we will see these verses, they will contain all the things that we are do as devotees in our movement. So can someone read the translation 34:41?
My dear Uddhava, one can give up false pride and prestige by engaging in the following devotional activities. One may purify oneself by seeing, touching, worshipping, serving, and offering prayers of glorification and obeisances to my homes as the deity and to my pure devotees. One should also glorify my transcendental qualities and activities. Here with love and faith, the narrations of my glories and constantly meditate on me. One should offer to me whatever one inquires, and accepting oneself as my eternal servant. One should give oneself completely to me. One should always discuss my birth and activities and enjoy life by participating in festivals such as Janmashtami, which glorify my pastimes. In my temple, one should also participate in festivals and ceremonies by singing, dancing, playing musical instruments, and discussing me with other Vaishnavas. One should observe all the regularly celebrated annual festivals by attending ceremonies, pilgrimage, and making offerings. One should also observe religious vows such as Ekadashi and take initiation by the procedures mentioned in the Vedas, Pancharatra, and other similar literatures. One should faithfully and lovingly support the installation of my deity, and individually or in cooperation with others, one should work for the construction of Krishna consciousness temples and cities, as well as flower gardens, fruits gardens, and special areas to celebrate my pastimes. One should consider oneself to be my humble servant without duplicity. What it is without duplicity?
Yeah.
Yes, and thus should help to clean the temple, which is my home. First, one should sweep and dust thoroughly, and then one should further cleanse with water and cow dung. Having dried the temple, one should sprinkle scented water and decorate in temple with mandalas. One should thus act just like my servant. A devotee should never advertise his devotional activities. Therefore, his service will not be the cause of false pride. One should never use lamps that are offered to me for other purpose, simply because there is need of illumination, and similarly, one should never offer to me anything that has been offered to or used by others, whatever is most desired by one within this material world, and whatever is most dear to oneself, one should offer that very thing to me. Such an offering qualities one for eternal life. Hare Krishna.
So, qualifies one for eternal life when we do all these things. So, this verse, the Lord elaborately describes the process of devotional service. A few key points here. One should always be submissive to his spiritual master. One should attend Vaishnava festivals. It's mentioned in the in Krishna book, in the worship of Govardhan. One who does not participate in the worship of Govardhan, he will be bitten by a snake. It is there. So it's good to follow that. One should attend Vaishnava festivals. One should have faith in deity worship. So never use the deities paraphernalia for sense gratification. So never offer paraphernalia to the Lord previously offered or used by others. One should offer his most dear possessions to Lord Krishna. So now So this is text. I will read the purport of Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj on this verse. Yeah, it seems that Chaitanya Prema, we hear him regularly. Purport. Although a materialist or impersonalist may appear to be very... this is the commentary on it's a little further. Purport. Here. Pure devotees consider the things of this world to be meant for... Pure devotees never consider the things of this world to be meant for their personal enjoyment, without connection to Krishna. That, just to make sure I'm reading the right purport. Yeah, it's the right one. Pure devotees consider themselves the eternal servants of the Lord and never make false claims of being themselves the Lord. Knowing the pure devotee to be the Lord's representative, sent into this world by His mercy, fortunate people touch His feet, have His darshan, worship Him, serve Him, glorify Him, offer obeisance to Him, and appreciate His transcendental qualities. It's difficult like this. It's interrupting again and again.
Hare Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu. Prabhu, you kindly unmute this your phone, Prabhu.
Mute. Yes, mute.
Please not unmute. Keep mute. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
One should not consider the deity, the Lord in the heart, and the pure devotees of the Lord to be separate from one another. Interesting. One should not consider the deity, the Lord in the heart, and the pure devotee of the Lord to be separate from one another. We have heard that already in the third canto, where Lord Kapiladev speaks about deity worship. And he says deity worship means, the purpose of deity worship is when you worship the deity on the altar, you transfer the deity to your heart and you feel him at the same time in your heart. That's the purpose of deity worship, according to Lord Kapiladev. So it's said here, one should not consider the deity, the Lord in the heart, and the pure devotees of the Lord to be separate from one another. One should know that the absolute truth is one, while manifesting in infinite varieties. One should faithfully hear about the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the spiritual master, while fully surrendering unto the Lord, offering all one's possessions to Him in service. Indeed, one should consider his very self as being meant for the pleasure of the Lord, for no other purpose. The word Varsha refers to a period of time as well as a tract of land. Yatra refers to the performance of religious celebrations current at various places and at various times. The performance of worship is called Balividana. There are two kinds of initiation, Vedic initiation and initiation conducted in pursuance in the Vedic literature. The word Diksha indicates that one should be eager to cultivate Krishna consciousness. The word Arivasara refers to the appearance of the day of the Lord, which should be nicely celebrated by all Vaishnavas. The firm determination to engage in the Lord's service is indicated by the word Vratadharana. Impersonalists do not accept the supremacy of the Lord, and one should give up the association of such persons and work either individually or collectively to make flower garlands and fruit orchards for the service of the deity, ashrams for the residence of devotees, and temples so that people in general can take part in the worship of the Lord. Giving up all false pride, one should sweep the floor of the Lord's temple, smear it with cow dung, sprinkle it with scented water, and then draw auspicious symbols, engaging just like a manual servant. One should never make such endeavors simply to enhance his prestige. One should never consider himself to be a great devotee, and one should never brag about his devotional activities. One should not employ a lamp that was offered to the Lord for serving his own purpose, such as illuminating his residence. One should never offer to the Lord something that was given to someone else or used by him. By being impelled by material desires, one should not utilize what is dear. One should not utilize what is dear to him for his personal sense gratification. Rather, he should offer his favorite things for the service of the Supreme Lord. By doing so, one will attain eternal benefit. One should not become bewildered by thoughts of material enjoyment, and thus forget the service of the Supreme Lord. All of one's wealth and family members should be engaged for the Lord's satisfaction, and this will save one from increasing his material bondage. So, Jnana finally leads us here to Krishna being the center of our attention, and then it means this jnana leads us to consider that one is a servant and then act as a servant. Text 4 till 41. Now text 42. 42. Soyoch nirbam managavo vaishnavakam aruchalam Bhoratma sarvabhutani bhatrapucha padani me. So please read the translation.
O saintly Uddhava, please know that you may worship me in the sun, fire, brahmanas, cows, Vaisnavas, sky, wind, water, earth, individual soul, and all living entities.
So this verse brings up an important point here. Unless one understands that Lord Krishna is all-pervading and that everything is resting within the Lord, one's Krishna consciousness is third class and materialistic. So these are 11 places where Krishna is to be worshipped. And grass has to be offered to the cows, not to the Lord, Shiva Goswami says. An interesting comment. Text 43-45. Can someone read the translation, please?
My dear Uddhava, one should worship me within the sun by chanting selected Vedic mantras and by performing worship and offering obeisances. One may worship me within fire by offering oblations of ghee, and one may worship me among the brahmanas by respectfully receiving them as guests, even when uninvited. I can be worshipped within the cows by offerings of grass and other suitable grains and paraphernalia for the pleasure and health of the cows. And one may worship me within the Vaishnavas by offering loving friendship to them and honoring them in all respects. Through steady meditation, I am worshipped within the inner space of the heart, and within the air, I can be worshipped by knowledge that prana, the life air, is the chief among elements. I am worshipped within water by offerings of water itself, along with other elements such as flowers and tulsi leaves. And one may worship me within the earth by proper application of confidential seed mantras. One may worship me within the individual living entity by offering food and other enjoyable substances. And one may worship me within all living entities by seeing the supersoul within all of them, thus maintaining equal vision.
So this is verses 43 to 45, and I will read the commentary of Bhaktivedanta. It is not possible to understand the Transcendental Lord simply by accumulating knowledge with the help of materially conditioned senses. Considering this, one should not think of the sun, fire, the Brahmins, the cows, the Vaishnavas, the sky, air, water, the earth, and the individual spirit souls as devoid of any relationship, as devoid of any relation with the absolute truth, and thus to be avoided. Rather, one should accept all these entities as being favorable for the execution of one's devotional service. As soon as one sees anything as separate from the Lord's service, one will certainly neglect it. These entities should be accepted as worshipable because of their relationship with the Lord. The things mentioned in this verse are to be worshipped in various manners. By hymns of the Rig, Sama, and Yajur Vedas, one should worship the sun. By offering ghee into the sacred fire, Agni is worshipped. By receiving them as honored guests, the Brahmins are worshipped. By feeding them nice grass, the cows are worshipped. By following his orders and thinking of him as an instructor and an eternal friend, a Vaishnava is worshipped. By constant meditation, the Lord within the heart is worshipped. The air is worshipped by considering the life air to be the most important element. Water is worshipped by offering of water and flowers. The earth is worshipped by performing the Nyasa mantras. The Supersoul is worshipped by offering him one's dearest possession. And all living entities are worshipped by treating them with equal affection. So, a lot of detailed instructions here. Text 46. Dishnyas viteshu matrupam sankasakra kadambujai yattam chaturbujam santam dhyayan akshat samahita. Thus in the previous, can someone read, please?
Thus, in the previously mentioned places of worship and according to the processes I have described, one should meditate on my peaceful transcendental form with 4 arms, holding a concha, Sudarshan disc, love, and lotus flower. In this way, one should worship me with.
Yeah, in this way one should worship me with fixed attention. So, Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj comments, by worshipping all these as if they were independent entities, one will be considered a pantheist, or one who worships many gods. One should meditate on the form of Lord Narayan, who holds a conch, disc, club, and lotus in his hands, as being situated within all living entities. In this way, the worship of all these entities will be in relation to Lord Hari. 47. Ishtapurte namame vam yochayeta samahita labate mai sadbhaktim machmiti sadhusevaya. Can someone read, please?
One who has executed sacrificial performances and pious work for my satisfaction, and who thus worships me with fixed attention, obtains unflinching devotional service unto me. By the excellent quality of his service, such a worshipper obtains realized knowledge of me.
Thank you. Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj says, the congregational chanting of the holy names of the Lord and the worship of the spiritual master are the best means for rising to the platform of pure devotional service. It is far better to chant the holy name of the Lord in the association of sincere devotees than to simply practice some form of dry renunciation of fruitive sacrifices. This is the process recommended for this age, and those who are actually intelligent will perform Krishna Kirtan with great enthusiasm. Text 48. Payena bhakti yogena satsangena vidovava No payo vitvate samyak prayanami satam aham. Read the translation, please.
My dear Uddhava, I am personally the ultimate shelter and way of life for saintly liberated persons. And thus, if one does not engage in my loving devotional service, which is made possibly by associating with my devotees, then for all practical purposes, one possesses no effective means for escaping from material existence.
Right. So it means one must cultivate devotional service in the association of devotees. So I will read the commentary of Srila Vishwanath and Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj. The path of Jnana and Bhakti have both been described, but here it is said that deliverance from material existence is possible only by devotional service, which is to be performed in the association of devotees. Pure devotional service to the Lord is called Kevala Bhakti, whereas devotional service mixed with speculative propensity is called Guna Bhuta Bhakti, or devotional service polluted by the material modes of nature. Actually, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, pure devotional service automatically awards one knowledge and detachment. On the other hand, without devotional service, the cultivation of knowledge cannot award one perfection. Processes for spiritual perfection other than devotional service are described like being nipples on the goat's neck. One can never hope to get milk from such useless nipples, and one cannot achieve perfection by any process other than devotional service. So in Srimad Bhagavatam 1199, Shuddha said, "My dear Lord, for one who is being cruelly burned in the blazing fire of material miseries, having fallen into the network of material existence, I do not see any other possible shelter besides you. Your two lotus feet, which are a sour of nectar, extinguishing the fire of suffering." In Srimad Bhagavatam 12.440, Shukadev Goswami said, "For a person who is suffering in the fire of countless miseries and who desires to cross the insurmountable ocean of material existence, there is no suitable boat except that of cultivating devotion to the transcendental taste for the narrations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead." Similarly, in Srimad Bhagavatam 4.31.12, Narada Muni said, "Transcendental practices that do not ultimately help one realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead are useless, be they mystic yoga practices, the analytical study of matter, severe austerities, the acceptance of sannyas, or the study of Vedic literature. All this may be very important aspects of spiritual advancement, but unless one understands the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari, all these processes are useless. The Supreme Personality of Godhead alone is the ultimate goal and shelter of saintly persons. Religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation are not the ultimate goals of life. Although these are desired by the conditioned souls, they are full of inauspiciousness. By constantly engaging in the service of the Supreme Lord in association of devotees, one certainly achieves the ultimate goal of life." 49. Ahaitat paramam kuyam shimvato yadu nandana shugopyam api vakshami tvamme britya suritsaka. Can someone read the translation, please?
My dear Uddhav, O beloved of the Yadu dynasty, because you are my servant, well-wisher and friend, I shall now speak to you the most confidential knowledge. Please hear as I explain these great mysteries to you.
Yes, Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj explains. The sages headed by Saunakrishi have said in the first chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, Prayasnitasya sisasya guravo guriyam apyuta, that a bona fide spiritual master will impart transcendental knowledge into the heart of a sincere disciple. Uddhav had surrendered to Lord Krishna, and in reciprocation the Lord imparted to him transcendental understanding. It is a fact that only unto one who has absolute faith in the Supreme Lord and the spiritual master is the mystery of spiritual understanding revealed. Other processes of elevation are incapable of delivering the desired result, because it is only by devotional service to the Lord that the Lord becomes actually pleased. Simply by accepting the association of the few devotees and working under the direction of the spiritual master, one attains all perfection of life. This is the essence gained by studying this chapter. But what's the purpose of this chapter finally? The purpose of this chapter and also the previous, in one sentence, detached karma yoga leads to bhakti and its practice. An association of devotees is the sum and substance, I would say, of chapter 11. And now we have come to bhakti. And bhakti is the most confidential knowledge. It's the highest bhakti to the highest degree. Where will bhakti to the highest degree lead us? To Vrindavan. So now we are at chapter 12, that renunciation and knowledge. So beyond renunciation and knowledge. And someone read the translation of text 1 and 2.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead
said, My dear Uddhava, by association with my pure devotees, one can destroy one's attachment for all objects of material sense gratification. Short purifying association brings me under the control of my devotee. One may perform the Ashtanga Yoga system, engage in philosophical analysis of the elements of material nature, practice non-violence and other ordinary principles of piety, chant the Vedas, perform penances, take to the renounced order of life, execute sacrificial performances, and dig wells, plant trees, and perform other public welfare activities, give in charity, carry out service vows, worship the demigods, chant confidential mantras, visit holy places, or accept major and minor disciplinary injunctions. But even by performing short activities, one does not bring me under his control.
Mm-hmm. So Krishna starts to explain here. There is a love, the love of the Vrajavasis, and that love brings me under control. And that is the Vraja Prema, the love of the residents of Vrindavan. And all these practices mentioned here will not bring him under control. And we will see there are two things here. This Vraja Prema brings him under control, but then the question will come, how are we going to develop this Vraja Prema? And that's also revealed in this chapter. So all those who want Vraja Prema, you have to listen carefully to this chapter. So from a few points from this purport, that so Lord Krishna in these two verses, he mentions that association with his pure devotees is far more powerful done processes such as yoga, philosophical speculation, sacrifices, public welfare activities. These are secondary. They also please Krishna, but to a lesser extent. So the injunction is that one should fast on Ekadashi. That is a permanent vow for all Vaishnavas. And one should not conclude from these verses that one may neglect the Ekadashi vow. That it may be concluded that such secondary principles are essential for the advancement of Krishna consciousness, and therefore one should never give up the principle of vrata, the execution of prescribed vows. So in the previous chapter, Srila Siddhar Swami mentioned that the words Achnai Jaivan Gunando Shan Srimad Bhagavatam 11.11.32 indicate that the devotee should select Vedic principles that do not conflict with the service of the Lord. That's interesting. Vedic principles that do not conflict with the devotional service of the Lord. Many of the elaborate Vedic ceremonies are complicated procedures for fasting, demigod worship and yoga practice, and it caused great disturbance to the supreme process of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, that hearing and chanting about the Lord. Therefore, they are rejected by the Vaishnavas. Further examples are given for Maharaj Yudhishthir and Ambarish Maharaj. So we can go to the second last paragraph of the purport. Let's see if we can find it. Second last paragraph. Yeah, that's the principle. If someone can read from here, the principle
If
of not
one
giving
falsely thinks that one may obtain the association of Lord Krishna merely by great austerities, brilliant studies in Sanskrit literature.
Singapore, you are reading something different. It's on the screen.
Last paragraph, Maharaj.
No,
Second
the
last.
second last, the principle of not giving
Oh,
up.
second last. Oh, sorry. I was reading the last part. The principle of not giving up prescribed vows may be further illustrated by the example of Maharaj Ambarish. In the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, we find that although Maharaj Ambarish performed elaborate Vedic sacrifices, his goal was always satisfaction of the Lord. The citizens in his kingdom did not desire to go to heaven because they were always hearing about the glories of Vaikuntha. Ambarish Maharaj, along with his queen, observed the vow of Ekadasi and Dwadasi for 1 year. Since Ambarish Maharaj is considered to be a great jewel among Vaishnavas, and since his behavior was always exemplary, it is definitely concluded that such a vows as fasting on Ekadasi are imperative for Vaishnavas. It is further stated in the Vedic literature, if due to negligence a Vaishnava does not fast on Ekadasi, then his worship for Lord Vishnu is useless and he will go to hell. The members of International Society for Krishna Consciousness fast from grains and beans on Ekadasi, and this vow should always be observed by all its members.
Thank you. So the conclusion is fasting, study, austerity, sacrifice must remain, but in relationship to devotional service. Now I will read a purport, a short purport by Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj on this verse. So the relationships we establish in this temporal world are not eternal, nor are they actually beneficial. The association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is attained by the association of his associates. The various methods for attaining perfection in life, such as the atheistic Sankhya philosophical system, the theistic Sankhya philosophical system, the performance of major and minor religious duties, the study of the Vedas, the performance of penances, cultivating a life of renunciation, engaging in welfare activities, giving charity, performing sacrifices, chanting Vedic mantras, taking bath in holy places, and controlling the mind and senses are not as effective in pleasing the Lord as the association of pure devotees. The Supreme Lord is unconquerable, but is controlled by the love of his pure devotees. All methods for achieving the ultimate goal of life that are followed by non-devotees cannot purchase the favor of the Supreme Lord. And now we will go to the next verses, 3 to 6. Can someone read the translation, please?
In every yuga, many living entities entangled in the mots of passion and ignorance gained the association of my devotees. Thus, such living entities as the Daityas, Rakshasas, birds, beasts, Gandharvas, Apsaras, Nagas, Siddhas, Charanas, Uhikas, and Vidyadharas, as well as such lower class human beings as the Vaishyas, Shudras, women, and others were able to achieve my supreme abode. Vritrasur, Prahlad Maharaj, and others like them also achieved my abode by association with my devotees, as did personalities such as Vrishparva, Bali Maharaj, Banasur, Maya, Vibhishana, Sugriva, Hanuman, Jamvan, Gajendra, Jatayu, Tuladhar, Dharmavyad, Kubja, the gopis in Vrindavan, and the wives of the Brahmins who were performing sacrifice.
Thank you. So many gained association of devotees. What are the points of the purport? It speaks about reformed demons like Prahlad and Bali Maharaj. Of course, Prahlad was a devotee from birth. So the reformed demons are also mentioned so that the readers of Srimad Bhagavatam will understand the enormous benefit one may achieve by associating with the devotees of the Lord. That examples given here is Vritrasur. Vritrasur in his previous life associated with Narada Muni, Angira Muni, and Lord Shankarshan, as Chitraketu. Prahlad Maharaj associated with Narada Muni, Bali Maharaj associated with Prahlad Maharaj, Vibhishan, a pious natured demon, it was the brother of Ravan, he associated with Hanuman and Lord Ramachandra, etc. That, yeah. So, and we will also read the last paragraph of this purport. That the importance of the association with devotees. Can someone read that?
The importance of association with devotees is illustrated in the study of Dharma Veda, the non-violent hunter as described in the Varaha Purana. In a previous life, he somehow became a Brahma Rakshasa or Brahmana ghost, but was eventually saved. In a previous Kali Yuga, he had the association of a Vaishnava king named Bashu. The lady Kubja associated directly with Lord Krishna, and in her previous birth, she had associated with Sri Narad Muni. The gopis of Vrindavan rendered service to saintly persons in their previous birth, having had ample association with devotees. they became gopis in Vrindavan in their next lives and associated with the eternally liberated gopis who had descended there. They also had association with Tulsi Devi or Brinda Devi, the wives of the Brahmanas. Performing sacrifice had association with women sent by Lord Krishna to sell flower garlands and betel nuts and heard about the Lord from them.
Thank you. I will now read Srila Vishwanath Bhakti Thakur and Bhaktivedanta Saraswati, which is because they give very interesting details. These 4 verses describe how the Supreme Lord is directly controlled by the gopis of Vraj and indirectly by demons like Bana. There are 2 kinds of saintly persons: those who are engaged in activities based on devotional service, and those who are engaged in pure and unalloyed devotional service. The controlling power of the former is indirect, whereas the controlling power of the latter is direct. The word Yatuda Dana refers to demons such as Tvastra and Vitrasura. Prahlad received the association of Srinarada even before his birth. Soon after his birth, Vrishaparva was rejected by his mother. He was then brought up by a sage and became a devotee of Lord Vishnu. Bali Maharaj attained the association of Prahlad Maharaj. All these examples are given in the Purana. When King Bana's arms were cut off, he received the association of Mahadev. While constructing their assembly house, the demon Maya had the association of the Pandavas. Of course, Arjuna, Mayadanava. Vibhisan received Hanuman's association. The monkeys headed by Sugriva received Lakshman's association. Gajendra, the king of the elephant, received the association of Srinarada in his previous life. The giant bird Jatayu and Garudas and Dasaratha had Garudas and Dasaratha's association. The stories of Vanika and Tuladar are narrated in the Mahabharata, but it is unclear whose association they had received. The story of Dharmavyada, the non-violent hunter, was described in the Vara Purana. In a previous life, he somehow became a Brahma Rakshasa or a Brahmana ghost, but was eventually saved. In a previous Kali Yuga, he had the association of a Vaishnava king named Vasu. In the Harivamsa, it is stated that in her previous life, Kubja had the association of Narada. The sages of Dandakaranya, who appeared as gopis in Vraj, had the association of many saintly persons in their previous life and the association of eternally perfect gopis in their next life. The wives of the Brahmins who were engaged in the performance of sacrifice had the opportunity to associate with Krishna's messengers, Mali and Tambuli, when they went to Mathura on business. Mali and Tambuli. So simply by the influence of devotees' association, all one's incompetences is destroyed, so that one become qualified to attain the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that was text 6. And further, because I want to go to text 8 today, and then we will have a break. So this is text 7. Dinadita Shuta Gana no Pashita Mahatmana Ashrata Tapta Tapasam Matsangam Mat Upagata. Can someone read the translation?
The persons I have mentioned did not undergo serious studies of Vedic literature, nor did they worship great saintly persons, nor did they execute severe vows or austerities. Simply by association with me and my devotees, they achieved me.
Thank you. Simply by devotees' association, they achieved me. So according to the advancement they made by means of sadhu sangha, The above-mentioned persons either achieved mixed devotional service or pure devotional service. There was no need for them to follow other sadhanas. They did not study the Vedas, which indicate that they did not approach sages who were well acquainted with the Vedas. Similarly, they did not perform any austerities or execute any vows. They developed devotional service simply by the association of the Lord's devotees, and thus ultimately attained this shelter without following any other sadhana. Simply by the influence of the devotees' association, one can attain the devotional service of the Lord. Now the last verse of today. Kevalena ibhavena gopya gavunagam riha yenye mudadionaga sidamam ityu anyasa. Please read the translation.
The inhabitants of Vrindavan, including the gopis, cows, unmoving creatures, such as the twin urchin trees, animals, living entities with stunted consciousness, such as bushes and thickets, and snakes such as Kalia, all achieved the perfection of life by unalloyed love for me, and thus very easily achieved me.
Yes. They all achieved the perfection of life. So the inhabitants of Vrindavan, that such as the gopis, they did not know anything except Lord Krishna, and their whole purpose of life was simply to love Krishna, as indicated by these words in the Sanskrit here. Kevalena ibhavena. So even the trees, the bushes, the hills, such as Govardhan, loved Lord Krishna. So I want now to go back a moment. Okay, now I want a new share database, and here we go to the Srimad Bhagavatam 10th Canto 15, text 5. And we read from, text 10, 15, 5. I think that must be also in the purport. Anyway, so the point is, those who take those who take Lord Krishna as everything in their lives, they are situated in the highest process of spiritual realization. The Lord glorifies the unalloyed devotees of Vrindavan, headed by the gopis, who knew nothing but Lord Krishna. So the residents of Vrindavan were so satisfied in their relationship with Lord Krishna that they did not pollute their loving service with mental speculation or fruitive desires. They served Krishna in different rasas. Then there are different rasas described. The trees, the bushes are in Dasya ras. We know when Krishna goes to the forest with the cowherd boys, the bushes and trees, the bushes, they offer their obeisances, offer their flowers, their fruits, the Dasyaras. The cows is Vatsalyaras, gopis Madhuryaras, and so on. So finally, we arrived in Vrindavan from a journey from a journey starting from detached karma yoga to jnana to bhakti, and the practice of bhakti, and the importance was stressed is associating with devotees. So to develop this Vraja Bhakti that we will hear next time, we will have a break now for it, because it's now 4:21 till 4:30, 9 minutes, and then I want to read some parts from the Birat Bhagavatamrita in relation of what we just discussed. Yes. So we have a break for 50 minutes, and after that we can have discussion.
Recording stopped.
Hare Krishna.
Recording in progress.
So I have difficulty with finding the right parts in the Bhagavatamrita, but I will prepare that for next time and begin with reading from Srimad Bhagavatamrita. Are there any comments or questions on today's verses? Yes, Shyaman Jyoti Krishna Prabhu.
You mentioned, Maharaj, you mentioned about deity worship, and there were three things, I think, deities and then spiritual master, and I was trying to understand completely what you mentioned there. I didn't properly get the note. What was it? We have to remember three things are same, is equal. What are those three things?
Three things.
One you said about deity and something else, and then spiritual master or pure devotee.
You can give me the verse number.
The third thing is the super soul.
Share.
Okay, so what's the answer? What is the quotation again? What was this? Somebody just replied. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, which verse do you refer to?
Maharaj, you mentioned that one should not consider the deity in the temple, the Lord in the heart, and pure devotee to be different.
Yeah, these three things, yes. Thank you.
I think you were reading from a commentary by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati.
Yeah, I remember that. And it was which verse? Which verse where we
From the verses 34 to 41.
34, 41. In these verses, the Lord describes, one should be submissive to the spiritual master, attend Vaishnava festivals, have faith in deity worship, never use the deity paraphernalia for sense gratification, never offer paraphernalia to Lord Krishna previously used by others, should offer his most dear possessions. Jnana leads to Krishna, but it was not this verse that was mentioned.
Maharaj, it is in 34 to 41 in Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's commentary.
Okay. Bhaktivedanta 34 to 31.
If you see the fourth paragraph from the last, you can see that.
Yeah, one should not consider the deity, the Lord in the heart, and the pure devotees of the Lord to be separate from one another. Yeah, that so the deity, the Lord, and the pure devotee. The pure devotee instructs us in devotional service. That and Lord Krishna also instructs us to devotional service in different ways, to the scriptures and to the heart. That so in that way they are not different. And the deity and the Lord in the heart are the same thing. That we have explained, that the purpose of deity worship is to transfer the deity to the heart and feel the same deity in the heart. So what is the question about it? Is that Shyavan Jyoti Krishna Prabhu?
Yeah, no, that's it, Maharaj. You answered the question. I wanted to know the three,
Yeah. Okay.
factors. One is deity, Lord in the heart, and pure devotee or spiritual master.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank
clear.
you. All to
Yeah.
equally. Next.
Mother Lalita Priya, please.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, in the same text as from 34 till 41, so in that we see that by engaging in the devotional activities, so we give up false pride and prestige. But sometimes it's actually the way around. Sometimes we see devotees engaged and they become expert in some devotional service. They become very proud of what they're doing. For example, maybe like dressing the deities, or maybe engaging in preaching activities like that. So here it says that a devotee should never advertise his devotional activities. Therefore, his service will not be the cause of false pride. So, when we are trying to follow this, Maharaj, what sometimes happens in the temple is some devotees, like maybe a neophyte devotees or something like that, when they do not see some other devotees engaged in the temple activities, maybe they are in the background doing some service, so they feel that only I'm the one doing this service. These devotees are not engaged in any other services, and this is like sometimes it creates a very unpleasant circumstances in the temple. So, is it good that whatever services we do, that we tell or keep it like not to brag about it? So how do we handle this situation, Maharaj?
Well, so your point is that I get your point, that there's some become very expert and they they attract others by their expertise and they become the center of attention and so on, and they may advertise themselves also as such to a certain extent. We have to be careful with that because that's what we may observe. But the reality is that Krishna, for him, everyone's service is equal. Yeah, all equal for Krishna. And the service is equal. It's equally appreciated by Krishna. That So whether one cleans the cooks in the pots in the kitchen, or one is a GVC, the same thing. Krishna, if we do our best, Krishna appreciates both equally. There is no higher and lower service in that sense. No, we all are engaging in devotional service, and sometimes we become blinded by that. And that is society of neophytes, unfortunately. That, of course, there are those who are more surrendered than others. That's nice. But Krishna's appreciation, whatever service you do, he appreciates from Krishna's side that. But we may go into this trap, because this person is in the attention and is seen as a great devotee by many, and the other made an error, and that's lower. But that's not how Krishna sees it. Public opinion has nothing to do with devotion service. Does that help, Mother Lita Priti Maya? I think it's an important point you are making, because that's also
Yes,
an observation I have every day. And a very important point.
yes, Maharaj. Thank you. And I have another question.
Yeah.
Today I got, like, every day we get messages of what Prabhupada told in the Prabhupada calendar. So it's like very much related to what we read today. In this translation, we see that individually or in cooperation with others, one should work for the construction of Krishna conscious temples and cities, as well as flower gardens, fruit gardens, and special areas to celebrate my pastimes. So Prabhupada is telling every individual being must have his opinion, that is significance of individuality. But all such difference of opinions must coincide in Krishna. So some devotees, they like to offer a different thing to Krishna, and which is not very pleasing to others. Like, for example, we see that in South India, mostly the deities are dressed with a grand variety of jewels instead of beads. And in North, we see that the deities are dressed in very beautiful bead jewelry, all these things. So some devotees like this kind of dressing, some devotees like that kind of dressing. But Prabhupada is telling that individuality means they should have different opinion, but it should coincide in Krishna. So how do we get our mentality? Like, suppose if we are not liking that particular style or whatever thing, so how do we come into this method of seeing that in what Srila Prabhupada is expressing? So how do we see that in that way?
Yeah, Srila Prabhupada, she has taught us that we see the devotional attitude. That's the most important. That variety of opinions and tastes is there, and that's good. But it has to be used all for the same purpose. That offering with devotion to Krishna. So Krishna must be the center. And that is also what Srila Prabhupada stressed so very much for the unity of our movement, which means that we have to use the diversity in the service of the unity. And the unity is to please Krishna. This movement is meant to please Krishna. And so there may be different opinions and so on, but we have to stay united by putting Krishna in the center. And so therefore, Srila Prabhupada instructed the GBC especially to discuss every year unity in diversity. So that is a very important aspect of devotional service. Like you said, we are all individuals. We have all a different fingerprints. Means we have all a different relationship with Krishna, and that makes a great variety. And Krishna feels complete when we all are serving him. He wants that all living entities serve him. That of course is complete, but philosophical. But I mean, to explain this unity and diversity, that's important. An important point you make. Does that help?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Very nice discussion. Pavitra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you,
Hare
Maharaj.
Krishna. Haribol.
Maharaj, the same text, 34 to 41.
Yeah, 34 to 41.
Yeah. Down, says, one should consider oneself to be my humble servant without duplicity, and thus should help to clean the temple. Maharaj, will see in these days, in the past, most of the temples, we call it Karma Yoga. They divide the cleaning to the different devotees. Yeah. But these days, almost all the temples, they employ workers to do the cleaning and everything. So the devotees become very lazy. They don't clean. So how can we revive that consciousness of devotees cleaning the temple, because it's the home of Krishna?
Yeah, it's good that we remain doing menial service. That whatever position we are, if we become a devotee, we should be happy to do whatever service, if it pleases Krishna, doing menial service. Srila Prabhupada mentioned this godbrother, I forgot his name, but how he was cooking for everyone. And he was cooking, he was serving, he was doing everything that, and he didn't want to take prasad himself. He was just wanting to serve that, and that is the mentality that we need. I remember that Bhaktivedanta Maharaj, he referred to his time that he was in the army, and there was one of the authorities there, I don't know, a captain or a general or whatever, and he gave a speech and he said, if you see something is wrong, don't come and complain, just fix it. And that's, the devotees should have this mentality. If they see something is wrong, then they start to serve and correct it. Of course, we have to see according to time, place, and circumstances. That is the principle here. And I think, but it should also go to the leaders, that they give this, this example. That I remember my Guru Maharaj, he would go into the kitchen and cook for the devotees the whole feast. So that's servitorship. I remember when in 2001, my first GBC meeting as secretary, and I prepared GBC meetings, and I was alone in the GBC room, waiting for the GBCs to enter. And the first GBC who entered was Jayapataka Maharaj. And he came to me. And you know what he told me? He said, please let me know at any time if I can serve you, whatever. So that is service attitude, and that attitude, if it's, yeah, of course there may be a reason for professionals to clean sometimes at certain occasions. That's possible. There may be managerial reasons, but nevertheless the principle is there, and I think that is what you wanted to point out. That good. Mother Sitarani, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, in the 42nd verse of 11th chapter, we see that Krishna is talking about his all-pervasiveness. And I was just a little confused because in the earlier one, which is the second verse, he talks about the 28 qualities of saintly person, and Mat Sharana is something which he is, focusing on as the Sarup Lakshan of all the qualities. That, if that quality is there, then others will develop. So, already, he's already talking about taking shelter, Sharanagati, complete dedication. Then why is he coming back to his all-pervasiveness in 42nd verse?
In the 42nd verse, 42nd verse, so Saranagati is of course the motor by which all the other qualities develop, but if one develops these qualities, means these are signs of being advanced. And a sign of being advanced is that one sees the Supreme Lord also as all-pervading. And all-pervading means seeing him in the sun, fire, Brahmins, and so on. So it's just, I would say it's complementary. It's a sign of advancement that one sees Krishna everywhere, and that's an Uttam Adhikar. So one develops these qualities, and then one becomes an Uttam Adhikar and sees the Lord everywhere. So, and he explains how we can attain this or develop this consciousness by worshipping him, and all the methods are described in this in all these different points he makes. So that's what I could say. Is that okay?
Yes, Maharaj, because I was a little confused. In Bhagavad Gita, we see that he talks about all pervasiveness before he starts talking about surrender. Surrender is the last instruction. So, and before that he talks about all that. But in Uddhav Gita, we see that he's talking about surrender and then he's coming back to this. So that's why I was a little confused.
That's interesting. Well, that's a good point. Because Bhagavatam starts where Bhagavad Gita ends. That's and we see that Uddhav Gita is at a higher stage here, gives more details and more details of how to progress in devotional service that you don't find in Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mother Prabhupada Priya, please.
Hare Krishna. Just, I have a question, but first I wanted to comment on Sitarani's point, if that's okay.
Yeah, good.
I was thinking that one path to approaching Krishna is the gradual, like step by step through the stages of God realization, Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. So then the focus in that thing, the beginning focus is Brahman, then Paramatma, then finally Bhagavan. But then in the process of bhakti, we begin from Bhagavan. And then, so first is worship Krishna, and then afterwards you understand that actually Krishna is the source of, is all pervading, that he's the basis of Brahman, that he's the Lord in the heart.
Yeah.
Those are just like other sparks of Krishna's splendor, you know, but the first thing is connect with Krishna. That's the way I was.
Yeah, right. That's a good comment. Thank you. But what was your point now?
So my question is, yeah, in the beginning of chapter 12, Krishna is giving, he's saying that by all these ways, you can't control me, but by this way, you can control me. So I'm just wondering, I mean, it's kind of interesting. You know, if I was talking to someone, I wouldn't say, if you do this, then you can control me. I would say, you know, I would be happy if you would do this, and I would be happy if you would not do that. So why does Krishna say, this is how you can control me, rather than saying this is how you can please me? Or something?
Yeah, this chapter is called Beyond Renunciation. And Krishna is explaining here unalloyed devotional service, the devotion of the Vrajavasis. And he will speak now, we will hear about the Vrajavasis, because they are controlling him. So if we are going to this Gully to the topmost, and Krishna will speak about the gopis. And that is his introduction to go to that point. How is controlled by the love of the gopis, and that's the highest.
I mean, is that our aspiration as devotees? Are we aspiring to control Krishna?
No, certainly not. But by our love, yes, Krishna fulfills the desires of the gopis, and the gopis, they want a relationship with Krishna in Madhurya Ras. And Krishna is bound to appear before them, have the rasa dance with them, and so on, because he's bound by love. And that's the beauty of Vraja Bhakti. That's the highest, and that's what's beyond renunciation and knowledge. So that means you must go beyond liberation to come to that point. Therefore it's the highest love. That it's also an act of devotion. Krishna Karshini. Attracting Krishna is in the level of pure devotion. That the fifth and the sixth characteristics. Is.
It seems like the word control is maybe not the best word. You know, like Sri Krishna, Karshini means to pull. Like, this is how you attract me. This is how you will pull me to you. And maybe it's something more like, this is how you will like melt my heart, or this is how you will oblige me to you, or something like that.
Well, controlled by their love. We know when Lord Chaitanya appeared, then the mothers, they were saying to Nimai, if you dance, you get half a sweetmeat, and Lord Chaitanya danced. So that's being controlled by their love. During the rasa dance, Krishna disappeared, but then they became united, and they expressed their love, and Krishna had to appear again, that in reciprocation with their love. And we have also heard gopis, yes, they were feeling so much separation, and Krishna revealed at Kurukshetra to them. I was bound to appear. I was in your mind. I was really there, but you were not. You were thinking I was not there, but I reciprocated with you. So that's these are, of course, you have also the Damodar Lila. Krishna bound by the ropes of love of Mother Yasoda. So these are all examples of that. Very beautiful. Thank you. Maharaj Prabhu, please.
Yes, Maharaj, two comments. One to Prabhupada, Priya Mataji, what she was saying. It's very nice point, but there is a twist in that point. The twist is Krishna is ready to accept the complete control of someone who is fully, willingly ready to accept the complete control of Krishna first.
That's nice.
So the person who is fully surrendered and voluntarily accepts the complete control of Krishna, Krishna also submits to himself and accepts his control. That's one point. And second point, what Kasturika Mata was saying, that, no, sorry, not Kasturika, this Lalita Pritmai Mataji's point was, actually different devotees has different inclinations, different upbringings, and different type of aptitude and understanding. But everyone is trying to serve the Supreme Lord best in her way, in his way. Like some person may like the bitter gourd and may like to offer the best dishes of bitter gourd to Krishna, and someone may prepare best of the sandesh. So it cannot be branded that one who is offering sandesh is higher and the one who is offering bitter gourd is lower, because they have a different understanding and different feeling. But that is the meaning, that Krishna in the center. Krishna is in the center, different devotees, we are individuals, we have different signatures, different finger points, and different approach to the same subject. And so there is no difference, actually, it's in harmony. Everyone is trying best in their way and their capacity to serve with the same principles. The principle is to please Krishna and Guru and follow. So these are the two comments. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Sriyapam. Think Swam Jyoti Krishna Prabhu, you wanted also to say something?
I was in a relationship, Maharaj, to Pavitra Prabhu's question about cleaning and allowing outside professionals to clean. What we have in the manor, just as an example, is we have a Maha cleanup team, or we have a cleaning schedule every week that somebody is doing this or that or that. But before every festival, at least in the manor, we have a system that all the pujaris get together, or most of the pujaris get together, and we have a Maha cleanup. So before Janmashtami, we'll have a Maha cleanup. Before this, we have a Maha cleanup. Before Gaurpurnam, we have a Maha cleanup. So you are absolutely right, Pavitra Prabhu. Devotees should also clean, not just rely on outside. Outside, they can come and clean something professional like a fan or external fan or air conditioning or something we don't know. So that's all I wanted to comment, Maharaj. Thank you.
Thank you. Good. So we are at the end of the session today, and tomorrow we will continue with this chapter, and I will see if I find these interesting references from Bhagavatamrita, and we will start with that. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Bye.